Welcome to the channel. During this book review, I will take you through some of the key learnings from The Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani, founder of Mindvalley. Let me start by saying I really enjoyed this book and that I believe if you're looking for a mind-blowing book and wanting to change your life, be inspired, and succeed in ways you've never thought possible, become magnetic to others, transform how you see your life, and are looking for results, or if you're just discovering who you are and how you can become a badass or a Buddha, well, I can tell you The Buddha and the Badass was a great read. It really engaged me and started me on a journey to questioning all of the above. Plus, it started me to look again at my life vision, which we covered in the previous video on the Code of the Extraordinary Mind. So, during the course of reading this new book, The Buddha and the Badass, I found a lot of different tips, highlights that I want to share with you. So I highly recommend adding this to your list of reads. So now I've told you how good it was, keep watching from my overview and the highlights from each of the chapters within this book. I'll throw in some bonuses along the way, so watch out for those. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button below now, and if you're keen in purchasing the book already, check out my description and you can add it to your collection. So let's get started on Buddha and the Badass. Let's start by taking a quick look at the 3 parts that this book is broken up to and the 9 chapters that are contained within. What is Vishen talking about when he started The Buddha and the Badass? So at the beginning, Vishen highlights that the Buddha is an archetype of the spiritual master, the person that can live in this world but move with ease, grace, and flow that come from inner alignment. And he mentions the badass. This is the archetype of the change maker. This is the person that is out there to create change, building growth. For me, it was really about highlighting the different types of methods and personalities it takes to make changes within your life and your influences on the world. So let's take a quick look at the 3 parts that make up this book. Part 1, becoming magnetic, going inward to attract outward. Then part 2 was finding your power, the 4 elements that transform, work, and amplify results. Then part 3 was becoming visionary, merging the Buddha and the Badass to change the world. So let me give you some keys around what I found with part 1, becoming magnetic, going inward to attract outward. So it started with chapter 1, uncovering your soul print. I wanted to start with a quote that Vishen highlighted at the very beginning of this chapter. It was from LP Jack, and I've really taken this to heart. A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever he is doing, and leaves others to determine what he is working on, or is he playing. To himself, he always appears to be doing both. Now for me, that was a great quote. For me, it really said, is it now what I want to set for my life vision? It really did speak to me. Vishen did have this quote in his previous book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. I really think this is something to really focus on. And for me, it really connected to the process of philosophies in this chapter, where Vishen provided many tools and many aids to pull apart these 2 key areas. The first was your personal foundational values and what is your core organizational goals. And then the second was looking at using story to identify the key values that emerge through your stories. But for me, I really think it came down to reaching deep into your own soul, reviewing your values, beliefs, failures, and successes, and developing your own core foundational values and your organizational values and goals. And I think this was by being really ready to dig deep and to get to the bottom of your beliefs. And I really found this section great and a very big learning curve for me. We then jumped into chapter 2, attracting your allies. Vishen in this chapter explained this process quite well, with saying you don't need to know how to achieve an outcome. Forget knowing how. All you need to know is why and what for doing it. Then you share this passion with the people you need, and they will become to you, and they will bring answers that you need and much faster than you actually need. For me, this was the beginning of exploring my why, and it led to the tool Vishen explains as vivid vision. I'll let you read and learn this section, but I'm just going to say for me, it was a very eye-opening and to learn, really implement into my daily life. We now move into part 2. In this part of the book, we start with Find Your Power, the 4 elements that transform your work and amplify results. So it starts in chapter 3. Spark deep connections. In this chapter, Vishen took journey to really look at how and why I don't connect and how I do with some people and why I do connect better with others. What is holding me back and managing our feelings to reach a growth mindset when it comes to sharing our connections on a physical platform and a mental. At this section, we really explored the Maslow's pyramid. See here. Which was very interesting for me and was very true on how we are and how we connect. For me, this is a real area of personal development and also a professional development space that I'm still working on. I think I ever will be perfect, but gonna give it a go. But it did allow for me to have some more really personal realizations. So I found it a very deep and revealing chapter. Then we moved into chapter 4, Master with ability. So again, Vishen explains the definition as when you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself. Nothing anyone says or does bothers you and no negativity can touch you. This chapter was all about becoming one with yourself, understanding your feelings, your past, your beliefs, answering the question, am I enough? And enabling you to become able to answer, I am enough. This concept was also detailed in Vishen's previous book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. So if you have read that book, keep reading because there is some changes. It starts off similar, but then it goes a little bit deeper. So keep on reading. Well, I'll leave you a link to the description of The Code of the Extraordinary Mind from my previous review, just so you can have a look in the details below. In chapter 5, Make Growth the Ultimate Goal. In this chapter, I learned how to grow by removing all of the barriers holding me back from my self-actualization. As I read this chapter, I was shown that my growth comes from challenges, achievements, ups and downs, and everything in between. I see personal growth is now changed for me. And even as I look at it again today, I now view the setbacks as a growth. Even though they are painful and a kick in the gut sometimes. But you'll see through this process, and as Vishen explains it, he'll take you. It is a requirement for your growth. But it really opened me to this new perspective of you. The highlighted example, seen here, in the form of the Kensho and Satori graph, basically explains that Satori equals growth from insights and Kensho is from growth from pain. The idea is without one or the other, you cannot grow. I guess it's like a yin and yang thing. After reflection on this process, I can really highlight this within my own life, and for me, it really makes sense now. So let's jump into chapter 6. Choose your mission wisely. So let me start this chapter with this quote. Remember this when you wake up every day. Your life is not about you, rather it is about the lives of every single person you touch. I think this statement explained or raised the bar of the why and what, especially for your vision. When I look back at my life book, it starts to all come together now. And during the chapter, I learned about some of the tools that were very useful in helping to find solutions to align with the others and developing inspiration for my life book and for others to become part of my mission. So now we're wrapping up with part 3. Becoming a visionary, merging the Buddha and the badass to change the world. In this chapter, chapter 7, we activate your visionary. In this chapter, I learned how to create crazy goals that inspire those around me and myself, whilst looking at the bigger picture to help others and the world. Vishen broke it down into 4 key tactics. First is the bigger your vision, the easier it gets. Aim really big as the journey is an adventure. So what he's saying here is don't narrow your vision down to one very specific thing. Go big, because then you can take many turns and merry adventures. Second is always speak of your project 5 to 10 years ahead. That way you give yourself the opportunity to succeed and to make changes along that journey. Third is give yourself permission to fail, as you will, and then you don't get disappointed in it. Just use it as a learning opportunity, like the Kensho and Satori. You're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes. You've got to understand that life is going to throw curveballs at you, and you need to learn how to deal with them. So I think that's a great task. And then lastly, fourth, be audacious, but not fluffy. The point here was to make it real for you and to your heart. I love this concept as it really set the ability to guide the future that can be achieved. Now I jumped into chapter 8, operate as one unified brain. In this chapter I learned about how to bring your teams or those around you, and it's about how to have open communication to establish open and meaningful communication, as we always talk about, to unlock a high level of collaboration, inspiration, and innovation. And then the second learning for me during this section was an acronym called ODA. And the ODA acronym stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. And Vishen explained it as a process to avoid paralysis by analysis, which I know a lot of people, including myself, fall into this trap oh so many times. And this really allows you to make as many decisions as possible by using this process. I found this concept very interesting, and I think it's something that I can work with, and I'll have to start practicing and trying. And I think you'll like it too. I'd like you to think of it like this. Just take in the facts presented, align the outcomes and beliefs, then agree the goal, then start actioning. Even if you don't know if it's 50%, 75%, or 100% ready for action, just do it. Remember, it's all about rapid change and enabling your learning at a rapid rate. Okay, so chapter 9, upgrade your identity. In this chapter, I learned the basic principle that opened my eyes. This principle was a step in how to identity shift. This process was acceleration versus navigation. What does that mean? So for me, the highlight was a point of clarity, as it highlighted the need to have balance between accelerating towards your goals and navigating the changes that acceleration brings during change. For me, it was all about how you are reviewing your goals or your vision and making corrections as you go, which for me was an important highlight. And the last principle of upgrading your identity was lofty questions. This process was all about identity and identifying what your dreams are, your needs, and your wants for envisaging your ideal life. For this, I referred back to my life book for ideas for sections, whilst also looking at the questions from within the book. Vishen then took me how lofty questions worked with your subconscious and worked to enable your beliefs to become lofty questions and influence your thoughts. This was a very interesting concept, and I use it to reflect from time to time and when I need some guidance. So, this is my review on the key fundamentals that impacted me and that I thought were of benefit. Whilst I realize everyone is different and some will get more from some of the tools it listed, and there's other tools within the book that I haven't highlighted. These were the greatest influences for me, but I do highly recommend reading the book and letting it really sink in and making your own decisions on what is, and the learnings there are plenty. Again, I recommend this book, and should you read it, please leave some comments below. And if you're interested in purchasing it, for the direct link to the hard copy of this book. And then click on the link, add it to your collection. Hope you enjoy, and leave me some feedback and send any suggestions for the next book you would like me to review. And don't forget to smash the subscribe button. Up to date with my upcoming videos. Thanks. We'll see you next time. See ya.